It's great to see you all again in person. Last night was a lot of fun. In fact, it's kind of funny. A few of the people, some of you I've met before in person, but a few only through Zoom. And the first thing that came into my head was, oh, you were like row 2, square on the left. Yeah, bottom row, right? Yeah, I remember. Anyway, we have a great agenda over the next 3 days, or 2 days rather. And over the next hour and 15 minutes, there's kind of 3 things I wanted to cover. First is a little bit about how Decisions is doing, how we see the market, how the analysts see the market, what we think's going on. So we'll share a bit about that. Then in line with our theme, the connect, collaborate, create, I'll pre-sell you on some of the sessions that we've got going over the next 2 days. And then third, we're going to show you our new ChatGPT module and a couple of use cases that we've built out with the help of my colleagues over here. And this is an exciting technology. Hearing it from a lot of you, actually in my 40 years of work experience, like this is the coolest thing that I've seen. And I think this is coming from the guy that has predicted 9 of the last 3, revolutions in technology. So take it for what it's worth. But I think it's really interesting. We can do a lot with it. We're just learning, and it's really cool. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. Again, welcome. So first, just one humble brag slide here. How is Decisions doing? We're continuing to grow double digit in the 30-40% range in terms of our subscription revenue. You can see to the right, our headcount is growing. This month could be a record month. This quarter will likely be a record quarter. We're on our way to a record year, and we're doing it profitably. So you've made a good choice. We're going to be here for the long haul. So rest assured that the decisions that you've made in Decisions has been a good one, and we're going to continue to grow. We're cash flow positive, sitting on a lot of funding, and that's not the case with a lot of our competitors, even the big ones. So if you look at Appian's financials, Pega's financials, you'll see how much more they're spending in marketing and sales to grow. And that's not going to go on forever. There's a lot of companies that rely on, the A round, the B round, the C round to keep going. And with interest rates up, that's not going to continue. So anyway, we're doing very well. Next up, I want to share with you what the analysts are saying, what I'm hearing from you, and I'm going to tell my own story, my own work story, to share with you some trends in terms of technology. And I feel like I've seen this before. So I've worked 25 years in process automation in factories before switching over to business process automation. So I think I have a lot to share in terms of what I saw on process automation and how that relates to business process automation. So first, what are the analysts saying? We subscribe to Gartner and Forrester, and some of what they say we listen to and make sense, some of which I'll disagree with, which you'll see in a minute. But here are a few points that we're hearing from the analysts. Number one, by 2024, hyper-automation functionality will be the dominant competitive differentiator among low-code development tools. So what does that mean? I mean, this to me is exactly what Decisions does. We integrate with everything. We orchestrate processes and data across applications, running rules, transforming data, and engaging end users in workflow. So You'll probably hear that over and over, but it's what we do very well in terms of automating business processes. The second point up here is that by 2024, developers outside of formal IT departments will account for at least 80% of the user base for low-code tools, up from 60%. Now, here's where I might disagree a little bit. I mean, if this means that users can change their reports, change the color of the screen, okay, I'll buy that. But as probably all of you know, building complex software that scales requires people with a technical bent, an understanding of relational data, an understanding of the difference between a string and a number and a decimal, right? And you all get exposed to the spreadsheets and the data that people use. And building applications that scale requires a different thought process with 3,000 users than it does with 300, than it does with 30. So we sell a complex product that has great capability, but it requires thought and an understanding of data and process to build good applications that scale. And we've got a lot of sessions this week to help you understand how best to do that in certain circumstances. So, okay, here's one example where I would disagree with Gartner. Number 3, by 2025, 95% of decisions that currently use data will be at least partially automated. And okay, I buy that 100%. Our name speaks to what we do, right? And when you start to think about how to automate work that people are doing, what you're really doing is automating their decisions. You know, when you ask somebody, well, what do you do with this? Well, if this, then that. If this, then that. And that's all automation is a whole series of if this, then that. Our platform, the rule engine, I believe, is the strongest part of our platform. And when, at the end of the day, when you're automating business processes, you're automating decisions that people are doing and manually doing today. So that's what the analysts are saying. This next bit, I'm going to tell my career story, starting from the left and working to the right. Does anybody know what that picture is on the left? So my father worked for IBM, and to the left, when I was 6 or 7 years old, they used to have this bring your kid to work day. And so he brought me to work to show me the IBM System 360. And that's what that is on the left. And he sold the first IBM System 360 to American Airlines. And I heard that story 63 times. Interesting, though, after he sold it, it was like a 2-year sales cycle. And he was so stressed out that he moved over to supply chain. And this is where my dad and I are different. I worked in supply chain for 25 years, and now the stress of sales I'm doing later in life. But anyway, he brought me to look at the IBM System 360, and NASA had 3 of those in 1969 to put, a man on the moon. And there's actually more compute power in this, the iPhone 14, than there was in all of NASA in 1969. And interestingly enough, the lunar module, the computer on that weighed 70 pounds. I mean, 70 pounds, that's like, think about like 2 45-pound plates. It was 70 pounds, and it had 64 kilobytes of memory. So not a whole lot of memory. So anyway, after my go to work with Dad day, I joined the Navy, and I was working on a nuclear submarine. And at that time, in the 1980s, a nuclear submarine, the actual reactor on the submarine was run by mag amps, and discrete components. So there was no chips. There was actually one chip on the whole submarine that ran the level in the steam generator. And the only data that we collected were logs. So once an hour, you'd walk all around and you'd write down, so not a lot of data. But when I got out of the Navy, I went to work for an engineering company. And this is where the story, I think, gets interesting to the no-code, low-code space. Because in 1989, I would say I was one of the first no-code developers. So in 25 years, I worked on paper mills, photographic paper coating, tape manufacturing, and all of that is driven by pumps, valves that open, close, that turn on, that are controlled. And there's all kinds of data systems now that collect data, tons of data to the minute, to the second, and store it in specialized databases. And the systems that control that, in 1989, the software programs that came out were all no code. So I was working for an engineering company, dragging and dropping steps to decide when to open valves, close valves, turn them off. And prior to that, there was a lot of this programming logic. They called it ladder logic. And of course, there was code that process engineers wrote. But by 1989, all of that was gone. And from then on, there's a whole series of vendors of that software. Today, it's ABB, Siemens, Rockwell Automation, Yokogawa. They've all got versions of that. There's dozens of them. But that whole space, nobody writes code anymore. They're all dragging and dropping steps, building flows, building logic to control how factories run. When I left the engineering company, I went to work for a paper company. At the time I joined, there was 1,400 employees at a paper mill in northern Minnesota. And today there's less than 400, and it makes more paper than it did when I joined. So the factory automation just continues and continues. And later in my career, when I switched to sort of business process, I was shocked at the waste, the manual work that exists in business processes today. The amount of just manual work from person to person that exists is kind of, even today when we talk to prospects and clients about their business processes, compared to the world of factory automation, the business process side still has an awful long way to go in terms of automating a lot of that. And we have the perfect tool to do that, and as do you all in your hands. If this, then that. Integrating with everything, orchestrating processes and data across business processes that cross application boundaries, transforming that data, running rules, and engaging end users in workflow when needed. Okay, back to the data story here, because this is a big part of this. 64 kilobytes of data on the moon lander, and an iPhone 14. I mean, I was looking at this morning at the data here. Should I share this? It's kind of risky. I've got Audible and podcasts that's like 30 gigabytes compared to 64 kilobytes on the lunar lander. I have my Aura ring. I have this ring that measures my sleep cycles. I know what my heart rate was all through the night. I have a Fitbit. I'm one of those ridiculous people that measures all this stuff and looks at it every day. Couple hundred megabytes. TikTok, haven't opened it in 18 months, but there's 800 megabytes there. I don't know what that's doing. And then Regal Cinemas. Regal Cinemas, again, 2 years I've got 384 megabytes of data from Regal Cinemas. What the heck is that doing? I don't know. But we're storing and creating all kinds of data and doing things with it. So back to my paper mill days, we used to collect data on the paper mill I worked at actually owned hydroelectric plant on a river. And there was 7 hydroelectric wheels, and the state would tell them how much water to let over. And I was the process engineer for that area, and I realized, wow, you know, depending on the level and the rate, we were generating power for our paper mill. And I figured out, wow, you know, you can optimize and the amount of power that we generate just through understanding the data, the curves, all of that. So I took a whole bunch of data, curved it out using Quattro Pro, which, if any of you know, was a spreadsheet application prior to Excel, and figured out that we could optimize the power generation using the data, running a few algorithms on it, and the net result was that year we generated $250,000 more in power than we had the year before. And we set up parameters. So it's data, it's algorithms, it's optimization. And once you start realizing what you can do with all of the data that you collect, there's an awful lot of optimization that's possible. So again, there's the data story. The more data we collect, the more ideas and the more things you can do with it. And we have the tools to help you work with all of the data that you're collecting. So take a look at this. This is kind of incredible. This is the amount of data generated annually by year. And that 2023 peak, yeah, I'm part of the big reason for that with all my ridiculous Fitbit and Oura Ring data collection. But even year to year, 22 over 23, you know, that's the increase is year over year is as much as, you know, 2017, how much data was collected globally. So everything is spitting off data, everything. And companies are doing things with it. We do a lot with it. You know, our business has been historically driven on Google AdWords. So probably at one point you all have typed in workflow software, business rule software, right? Found decisions. Well, we're tracking, slicing, dicing that data to try to find the right people who need the tool to come to decisions. And then occasionally the algorithms, the Google algorithms get screwed up, and we have to tweak things to ensure that we're getting the right kind of people, IT people, looking for a workflow tool, looking for a rule engine tool. So companies all over the place are doing all kinds of things with this data, and we have the tools to help you. So we can integrate with everything. We can transform data. We can run rules against the data, and we can engage end users in workflow when needed. And all of the tools for automation are in your hands. So anyway, the common theme here is that the amount of data is growing. The things that people are doing with the data only continues to grow. And as we'll get to in a minute, ChatGPT is just one more example of grabbing data, sending it off to another service, and getting a return back and doing something with that data. And the examples that we're going to show you, you know, fit right with this story. Because when you have data in one system and you pull it and you want to save it somewhere else or do something with it, you need to integrate, you need to transform it, you need to convert it, you need to run a little bit of logic on it in order, and that's the case in point, which you'll see even with calling ChatGPT. So if you want ChatGPT to do something, you have to feed it in the right way. And then when it sends you a return, You got to strip out some stuff and save it in the right format in order to do interesting things with it. Okay, so that's kind of the summary of the world that I think we live in. The no-code revolution will only continue, and in the years to come, more and more of the software that gets written will be no-code. You hear it from Gartner, you hear it from us, and you all know what you can do with this platform. And the second theme is that we're creating a crap ton of data every day that gets sliced, diced. It needs to be transformed, saved, categorized, and saved somewhere else. So along with the theme, connect, collaborate, create, we've got a lot of great sessions over the next 2 days. So in terms of connecting, we have a number of panels. So if you're in healthcare or financial services, we have some panels for discussion. So the whole idea is to connect, share your stories, share your problems, share your successes. We also have a Talent Connect session. So if you're looking to hire decisions developers, if you're a decisions developer looking for work, connect up. I think we have 2 different sessions, today and tomorrow, during that time. So by all means, find the Goodman Room and connect with those looking for work or looking to hire. Speaking of connecting, we have a really good session on how we, inside Decisions, have used our own tool to automate our Marcom stack. And what I think is interesting about this story is that we didn't set out to put our own product in the middle of our own marketing and sales stack. We found we needed it. We tried the native integrations. They didn't work the way that we wanted them to work, and so we started to stick our own tool in there. For example, if you fill out a form on our website, we have sitting behind our website is Pardot. It's a Salesforce tool, and it saves it to Salesforce. So we get an email address. We also subscribe to another service called ZoomInfo, and what ZoomInfo does is it sells data on everybody, all of us, mine, yours, and we send that email address to ZoomInfo, and then they kick back who this is, what their title is, where they work, and also some information about the company. Now, when we hooked up the native integration, I don't know, 1 out of 10 times we get data back. But what Derek over there figured out is there's issues with this native integration, and if you sometimes resend it, you'll get the data back. Maybe it doesn't have the person, but if we strip out the front and just send the company, we get all the company data back, and all of a sudden our data quality is a whole lot better. So we did all that automation with Decisions to make all of this work. Not because we wanted to, not because we set some grand strategy, but little automation by automation, it just all happened. So Decisions is a great tool for doing also little automations. A lot of you are building big things, but this evolved one by one, bit by bit, one little piece of automation to connect and take out some manual work and to clean up the data. And it was interesting, we were preparing for a webinar about 2 months back on this very topic. And initially, when we talked about it, well, let's talk a bit about what we're doing. And we thought maybe we have 4 integrations, 5. And when we started to look at it, it turns out that there's about 16. Again, not part of some grand strategy, but the natural evolution of just adding one more little integration to the stack. Okay, in terms of collaboration, a number of interesting sessions. Harley Bledsoe CIO at Better Business Bureaus has got a session on a CIO's perspective on replacing a legacy system. I think we all deal with those every day. Some engineering frameworks to achieve citizen development. I think it's the Conservice guys doing one or two of these. And then we have deploying automation strike teams in your organization. So these are all topics related to how best to use the decisions platform and organize internally to make the best use and to achieve your automation results. And create. In a couple minutes, I'm almost done. We're going to show you the ChatGPT integration and what you can do with that. We also have a couple of our own folks showing some advanced techniques in rule design and end-to-end project architecture. So, how do you think about architecting a project end-to-end? So, a lot in store over the next 2 days. And the way these, if you haven't looked at the session, these things repeat. So you can attend one and just make sure that you don't miss out on one that you're super interested in. Okay, so on to the ChatGPT. We have a contest that we're running here over the next 2 days. The Creators Cup. Not only will the winner get $2,500, but this beautiful cup that'll make your children proud and will be something that you can pass down through generations, right? So there's only basically one rule in that you need to incorporate ChatGPT. So, and who's eligible? Okay, anybody who is not a decisions employee or has not founded decisions. Right, Carl? That's Carl Hewitt in the back. Carl is one of the original co-founders of Decisions, probably one of the smartest guys I've ever worked with, probably the smartest guy. So if you get an opportunity over the next 2 days, have a conversation with Carl, and he's part of the reason that we're all here today. The structure, the application that has been built is his mad mind at work. But sorry, Carl, no $2,500. All right, in terms of the contest, there's a QR code here. So if you want to grab your phone and take a snapshot, you can find the information about the contest on the document linked to this QR code. And tomorrow at 1 o'clock, we'll meet in a room over here and review, and we'll have present the top 2 or 3 builds Wednesday afternoon, and it should be interesting. So I'd encourage any of you here to join, and let's see what happens tomorrow afternoon. Okay, what are we gonna show you here? First, we have a ChatGPT module, and the dev team has told me, make sure you say it's beta, that there's more coming, it's not being launched. I'm on stage. We got it. It's launched. It's live. No stepping back. Sorry, Eric. Sorry. It's here. It's live. Everyone here has access to it. It's in the App Store. It's out in the wild. Yes, there's more to come, but you can access it today. So Derek will show you a bit about where to find it, how to install it, and what's inside today. Then we're going to go through 2 use cases that we've built out using ChatGPT. The first, and these are things, there's some things when we were kicking around ideas that are ridiculous, because you can do it just as easily, copy, paste, using the web version. What we're trying to show is that these are real use cases that we run into and are areas of automation. You're all building stuff, you need to test it, you need test data, and ChatGPT is fantastic at generating test data to test out your build. If you have questions about any of this, or you want to enter the contest, you can go out to the desk, and they'll give you the link to the rules, to the access. I also want to point out to you all to stop by our partner kiosks that are set right out here. So we have configurable management. Steve Branch, are you here? Steve. We have the Emprise team right up front. And Expressibility, Jason. The Tech Clan. And the Datamatics team. So yeah, we have a lot of great service partners. So if you're looking for, if you have work that you want to get done, by all means, talk to one of these partners. They have trained, certified decisions developers, and they do great work for our clients. And again, I just encourage you all to collaborate during these sessions, ask questions, make sure you get something out of it. If you have questions, please do so, engage, and yeah, join the Live Build Challenge, and we look forward to seeing what you all have to show tomorrow afternoon. So with that, thanks, and glad to have you all here.